Welcome, Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Eli, Refracted Curvature, Adam Meakin, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Beautiful day.
Hey, good morning.
Again.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Good morning, good
What's
afternoon,
happening?
good evening, good night. Welcome one and all.
Is it beautiful weather there too?
Not especially.
Oh, it's over here.
It's all good. Let's try and do a bit of housekeeping. Hopefully, if Brian's not here, the guy suggested we go into a bit more detail on each of the housekeeping question. We won't get a bit of waffle that's detailed and intricate about the argument. We'll keep it specific about each particular question. Hopefully this will get more concise as we do it. And hopefully it's keeping you frosty in terms of why we actually have these questions. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No evidence we're moving whatsoever.
Okay, so we ask
Nobody
for
all it.
axial rotation. So claim we have an axis, you're going to need an R value for that. And the axial rotation claim comes with the 2 reference frames required to have a Coriolis effect, which globe Earth is claimed to have. That would be you turning underneath stuff that's not attached to the turning Earth and seeming to drift away from your position because you're turning away from it on a turning Earth. Ergo, hot air balloons would drift away from your position as they moved into the air, and if you were in the hot air balloon, you'd have Earth turning underneath you, and a different continent would come to your position if you just hovered in the air. Obviously, that does not happen. We don't have 2 reference frames on a globe Earth that's turning, and we don't observe Coriolis effect, in spite of us being told we do so by people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, exampled by footballs curving through goals, because you're turning beneath the ball. Earth turned beneath the ball, therefore it curves through the goal, that's Coriolis effect, but that would affect anything else in the air, including a hot air balloon in this example. That doesn't happen. We don't have a turning Earth. There'd be Coriolis effect if we did have a turning Earth, and we don't. Go ahead, Arwin.
Yeah, well, technically, axial rotation doesn't require a radius. What it does require, though, is an axis.
It does require a radius, you're wrong.
How?
The center of rotation to the edge point is the radius.
Yeah, but that's then presupposed. Yeah, if you're going to presuppose a globe with an axis, yeah,
Just
then
take the L.
radius, but-
Just take the L. Let's move on. Housekeeping, concise. Any evidence of the R value mentioned in the presupposition that we have an axis to rotate about? R value, Earth radius.
They say the physical nature of Earth blocks boats from the bottom up. Proof that we have a radius.
Well, the black swan killed that.
Okay, let's cover both of those. So there's a claim in the form of the begging the question, because it assumes Earth is curving. It's an Earth curve calculator. Proof of nothing, because it's begging the question. Perspective hijacking, because it takes it into a Muppet vision. That would be orthographic representation, where you see your side of your own head and the target in the same image. That's orthographic view. We call it Muppet vision. So perspective hijacking, that removes all aspects of angular resolution limits, aka perspective, from the calculation. Proven out by the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator having feet and inches or meters value ascribed to the target. Now in reality, when you look through a camera and get further away from something, it gets smaller. The angular size, that would be the apparent size, decreases with distance. In the curve calculator, it remains the same feet and inches size, actual size, because they've removed perspective. So, with that claim in mind and a perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator to do it, they take an R value, Earth radius, and assume that the horizon is a tangent point, physical geometric limitation to your view, blocking boats and buildings. However, we have shown with the black swan that if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to that geometric limitation tangent point horizon known as Earth curve could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as declared in their Earth curve maths calculations of a sphere Earth with a radius 3959. The black swan imagery shows the horizon beyond the limitations of their sphere Earth mathematics. Therefore, the horizon is not an Earth curve physical tangent point. Now, their response is to say it's refracted, but we'll get into that later. The black swan debunks the geometry and geometric tangent point Earth curve claimed in that maths. Hopefully that's covered both of your points, Brian, as concisely as I can at least. Anything more to add on R, Earth radius? On a similar vein, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Shout out to Mike808 for hitting the super chat. Molten iron core evidence. Go ahead.
Oh, no, there's none of that. No. You can't have it. You can't have a molten iron core because it's several steps after what you need to have the thing. You need to have a radius and a globe. You need, and then you need a load of information after that to come up with a molten iron core. I just think that they needed to make up a story to go along. They needed something for how does this globe keep rotating. They needed something, and how come we have this magnetic field and different things. They just needed something, so they come up with that. It wasn't their best work. But then again, no one can disprove it because you can't go to where they say it is, if you believe you're on a globe.
Or see the history of how they claimed it came to pass in the first place in a heliocentric model, with a planet named Theia smashing into the fledgling Earth at a glancing blow, its debris being formed by way of gravitational accretion into the moon we now observe, and its molten iron, juicy, delicious iron core being deposited to make Earth's iron core larger. That's the story of how we have an oversized molten iron core that's not cooled down in the heliocentric time frame. And it's true because they made it up themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it's true because they made it up themselves.
They'd need an R value for their scaling properties, so leading me nicely on to any evidence of the distance to the sun.
No, there's no evidence for the distance to the sun. It's not. At present, I don't know of any way to obtain it.
Well, they take a flat Earth angle measurement, insert their presuppositional R value for Earth radius into that angle measurement, and then apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion after applying the same radius value assumed to be applicable to a sphere Earth that took that value from calculations off a flat plane, and apply that radius value taken from flat Earth angle elevation measurements and superimpose it onto Venus. Once you've got that light scaled, coincidentally, with the same R value as Earth. Ever wondered, audience members, why they call Venus Earth's twin? That's because Christian Huygens decided arbitrarily that it had the same radius value as Earth, giving him the scale values in Kepler's third law. So he could give you all of the distances that you now ascribe to all of these planetary bodies, and that came under fierce opposition from people like Tycho Brahe. It'd have to be enormous! Cut to the video of all the different claimed to be suns, Betelgeuse and so on and so forth, getting massive. That's off the back of an objection from Tycho Brahe. What do you say, Tycho? They'd have to be enormous. Well, then let it be so. They're enormous. Anyway, distance to the sun. No?
Well, the thing about it is that what you just said there about Christian Huygens and all that. I mean, to do even what the calculations that he did, besides all the radius issue, to do what he did, he already had to pre-assume where the sun was. He already had to make pre-assumptions about how far away the sun is and how big it is. Now, I know that in the heliocentric model, I thought it was 3 times it had changed its size and distance, but actually it changed more than that. But it all does, like, I mean, the origin of it is the origin of this distance to the sun, it ties in with and is married to a two-way speed of light calculation that they try to claim as a measurement. Now, the most up-to-date, let's just say, two-way speed of light calculation is the most up-to-date one, but they had other ones before that. I mean, there was too many pre-assumptions made. Like, Kepler's analemma had to be correct for this to happen. And no matter what way they twist and turn it, it's an average distance from the sun is what the heliocentric globe has. An average distance from the heliocentric sun. Now, because they had to work off of Kepler's analemma.
Right, now you've mentioned the other two. So yesterday, although Brian criticised himself, as did others, for not being concise enough during the housekeeping. It's your suggestion to keep these concise and detailed at the same time, by the way, Brian. A tall order. But you've summarised the other two presuppositions. So there's 2 averages and 4 presuppositions that are employed. Is that correct?
For the two-way speed of light calculation, at present, there's 4. There is the presupposition we're on a globe. There's the radius size of that globe. The radius of the globe, given it its diameter or circumference. There is the presupposition that it goes around the sun in an offset elliptical orbit, and it's the preassumption that the sun is a certain size and distance away.
And then there's 5, because there's also the presupposition, because you're talking about Kepler, about Venus having the same R value. So there's 5.
Well, yeah, you can say there's 5. I just named the 4, but there's
it's
5.
It's AU, right? It's based on sun and its distance, right? Well, you only get that with the scaling value after. So yes, they already had Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion before they ascribed that, or before Christian Huygens did. So therefore they could scale it in anything. And you said, well, it changed 3 times. Well, yeah, that makes sense. But when you actually ascribe a speed of light value, you must have the scales all set down. And you only get that after that 5th assumption. So there's 5 assumptions. The 5th one being Venus has the same R value as Earth. This is still relevant to distance to the sun. This is just for anyone who's lost track.
Just to give the 2 averages, because they're the most important part for anyone who wants to really consider this as if the two-way speed of light is real or not. The 2 pre-assumptions is the first one is an average radius to the globe model, because there's the dual radii of the equatorial radii and the polar radius, right? There's the average radius there, so that's straight away a calculation issue. But then there's the average distance. There's the most important thing out of all that, the average distance between the globe Earth and the heliocentric sun over a 12-month period. So that means no matter what way they twist and turn it, no matter what they come up with, the two-way speed of light calculation is an average. So, sorry, I think Adam was going to say something there. Sorry.
I was just going to say that if we were keeping it succinct, then simply the answer is you're going to need half of that.
Indeed.
All the other assumptions, but most fundamentally, everything is defined, as you've outlined, from Earth's R to Venus's R to define an AU. So that then follows on to the next question, doesn't it? Because it's the same answer, because they go into the fields of astronomy, astrology.
Well, I'll ask that first then. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
So the answer then is you're going to need R, because all of that is based on the AU. So any distance you're going to ascribe in those fields, you are going to need R for that. It's going to fundamentally fall back to that.
Yeah, and that ordering may change in the housekeeping. It's just occurred to me that it was typically refracted curvature that would say, with a disclaimer, well, you're going to need R for that. But if I lead that conversation with the gravity question following it rather than leading it, you'll end up with a justifiable, you're going to need R for that, right? I may think of all of the housekeeping questions in a slightly different order, because it does make a difference to how they're received. Anyway, we'll consider that at a different time. We're trying to keep this concise and detailed. let's move on to any scientific evidence of gravity.
You said fundamentally the calculations are based on R, distance to the centre of the mass.
Scientific evidence of what?
Well, we don't have to justify it, Neil, as much as that's comedic. When it comes to gravity, there's not a soul in the Western world that doesn't know what we mean. Now, there might be misapprehensions when it comes to debating about it. Is it Newtonian gravity, falsely ascribed to the man when it's actually CV Boy's Reverend John Michell and Cavendish gravity, or the actual current rhetoric of Einsteinian bending pseudo-force space-time? Well, either way, people know what they think that we are talking about when we say gravity. I don't have to say, well, the reason we discuss gravity in the flat earth debate is because it used to be the get out of jail free card that they thought they could use at every particular opportunity, but because they were falsely ascribing science to their claims, they never actually had any phenomena to observe and then independent variable to vary to cause it. It's furthermore now claimed to be an effect in Einsteinian's bending space-time. That's an effect, not a cause. So they've got a whole raft of problems and doublespeak in terms of gravity. That's why we ask, but need to suggest why we ask. Right? Everyone knows that they use gravity a lot.
Well, I remember when I was just a listener, that used to get me all the time. I loved it. And you would just continue like nothing. Gravity. So kind of missed that guy, whoever used to say that.
Well, the reason for... Travis. The Plain Truth, subscribe today. The reason Travis would say scientific evidence of what is because if you contextualise it with scientific evidence, suddenly you're asking for a naturally occurring phenomena, something to observe in nature. Well, his response, of what? As in, what is it? Show me it. And you can't. Hence, it was an apt or appropriate response. Scientific evidence of what? Gravity? What? What's that? Can you show it me? What's that? Let's decide which one you're going to be talking about. Are you saying mass attracts mass? No, it doesn't. Gas defies that. What's that? Oh, you understand that's 107 years out of date. You actually meant pseudo-Ramonian's for space-time, a conceptual medium being bent by the uneven distribution of mass. It's that effect that we can't experience because it takes place in a dimension that isn't real. Yeah, that's not going to have any effect on anything. That's not going to be shown to me in physical reality. There is no pseudo-for space-time bending. It's a dimension that doesn't exist. It's conceptual. So no, you're not going to be showing me that. So no, there isn't any scientific evidence. There's nothing to show. Scientific evidence of what? Gravity? Yeah, it's just a mathematical nonsense construct that has been employed to get around awkward arguments with a conceptual medium that doesn't exist.
Well, even further to that, the mathematical description has been invalidated when R was disproven.
Correct. They don't even have maths if they want to claim that it can be taken to the conceptual, as QE and yourself have recently pointed out. Well, what maths? The maths doesn't work, so it doesn't work in the conceptual either. Pathetic, really.
Yeah, nobody ever, like Einstein or Newton or anybody, never put forward a valid hypothesis for it. There was no hypothesis. I can't speak today. Hypothesis test. You know, it was never put to a scientific method. Why? Why would you not try and put something? Why would you not try and prove your claim? Because the claim is what caused it? Gravity, right? But it's a word. What caused it? A word. I mean, it's a pre-assumption of this gravity thing that was never proven to exist in the first place. So what caused it? Gravity. What caused it? A word. Because that's all it is. A word. A word that keeps on having different descriptions attributed to it. Because they keep changing. You have to change. They're going on to their third one now, or fourth one. But they keep on having to change around what it's supposed to be. Because it's a nothing.
Speaking of nothing.
If it exists. Sorry.
I want to move on. I know you want to talk about gravity more, but I want to hopefully keep the housekeeping under half an hour. With the amount of detail we've got rammed in so far, it's been good. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container, and I'm hoping the next person to speak will explain why we ask it and in that phraseology.
Yeah, we asked that because we do have gas pressure. So that is impossible to attain without a solid container. It's impossible to attain gas pressure, temperature, or vacuum without a solid container. So that's why we asked that.
Perfect. Perfect. It's a necessary antecedent. To have gas pressure, you must have a container. The consequent being gas pressure, the antecedent being a container to press upon in the first instance.
But why? Because in the heliocentric model, we live on a globe, right?
And, go on, you're nearly there.
And it's impossible to have gas pressure if we live on a globe with infinite space in front of us, because where and how could the gas pressure be contained?
It isn't. So what Neil's trying to say is that if there was an infinitely available volume of space, that would be space, a sky vacuum where they claim to travel to the moon and such, then the gas could also enter that availability of volume. In fact, that's precisely what gas does by way of natural law descriptions. Gas fills space. Entropy describes gas dispersion into a volume. Well, the volume would be the space it has. And irony of ironies, they call outer space space. Well, that would be a space for gas to fill. We'd all be dead. We'd have never had gas pressure in the first place to breathe if the sky was a vacuum. Gas would come out of the ground and immediately vacate into the vacuum. It would be 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level. Always. Regardless of how much gas was being produced by the ground. It would just immediately vacate into space. Unless we had something for it to press upon and bounce back down again, and then accumulate it en masse. That would be pressure. Well, you need something to press upon. A container. Without the container, there can be no pressure. And sky vacuums, therefore, are debunked. All claims from them are also automatically debunked. Any claims of travel, orbits, motion, pictures, all of that stuff that's claimed to take place in the sky vacuum, pictures from Earth, of Earth from space, automatically fake. Because the claimed region they were taken from is fake. Can't have a sky vacuum, we'd all be dead.
Yeah, very simply for anyone out there who is new, try to create, besides even trying to create gas pressure without a container, how could we have any gas cycles? How do we have an oxygen cycle? How could you have a cycle if we were surrounded by a vacuum, an uncontained, vacuum? It would be ridiculous. You couldn't have a cycle. It'd be impossible. You couldn't have, there's no point in arguing the point of a gradient. You need to have gas pressure to have a gradient.
What type of gradient? A gas pressure gradient, so also requiring the necessary antecedent of containment to achieve pressure, to then achieve afterwards, after you've got the pressure, the gas pressure cycle.
Yeah, we have several cycles that go on all the time. We couldn't have a gradient where there is a constant stream of gas gradually heading off out into outer space. That is not what happens.
Well, firstly, it wouldn't be gradual. It would be instantaneous. If we lost containment and had the pressure that we had at 14.7 at sea level or wherever it is, that would immediately dissipate if you had a hatch in a container and you open the hatch. Like if you pop a balloon, yeah, the gas immediately vacates. Or if you tear a hole in a car tyre, the gas immediately all vacates. Well, the same would apply. But we haven't got gas pressure in the first place to have it immediately vacate if you violated the containment. We'd just never have developed gas pressure ever. It wouldn't slowly dissipate into space.
Yeah.
Especially with the orbit around the sun, and you have the one part of the equator, the one that's away from the sun, at least at some portion of the day. And with that movement, I don't understand how there wouldn't be a difference between one side of the Earth and the other.
I love it. Phil Bell from the chat says, why does it not fill the space at 100 kilometres where the pressure is 0.0000145 psi? This is effectively a vacuum, says Phil. Can somebody on the panel tell me what PSI stands for, please?
Pounds per square inch.
A square inch of the vacuum? And that wouldn't be giving him a square inch to press on to give him a PSI now, would it? You'd need to be pressing on something to have a square inch of PSI value.
The units
Clown.
refer specifically to the container. It's pounds per square inch of the containment.
That would be the vacuum.
Yeah.
That vacuum's the container for them, though, isn't it? Obviously, vacuums aren't very good at containing things. They're actually a space for gas to fill. But according to Phil, there's 0.00145 pounds per square inch pressing on a vacuum. You dumb fool. No, you're going to need a container for that PSI value to be less at the top.
See if I understand that. Why is he not understanding that? Come on now, Phil.
Because he's a globe believer. He wants to believe there's a sky vacuum, so he's going to tell me how much pounds per square inch there is at the top near the vacuum. Pressing per inch of nothing. Because he's a complete idiot with a sphere belief, so he's going to be humiliatingly defeated in his argument with his own words by a flat earther live to an audience. That's what they're like. Shout out to Samuel Goat, who smashed the super chat and says, let's bring it up for the audience. All flat earthers usually reply with atmospheric pressure. Atmospheric? Well, I don't know. Well, there might be some flat earthers that beg the question on behalf of their opponents with sphere-shaped air, atmosphere. Me, I like to point out where Phil Bell begs the question of sphere earth with an atmosphere, sphere-shaped air that he assumes when he's making his examples. Shout out to Godzilla37 also. He says, stop saying not, one, and start saying 000. You are confusing the heck out of us, North Americans. Don't follow you, Godzilla, but I definitely appreciate your super chat. Thank you very much for the support. Anybody else understand what Godzilla means?
Yeah, you're saying 0.1, whereas in America it's 0.1. So when you're saying 0.0,
Gotcha.
people don't understand you in America.
0.00145 PSI. Oh, that's better.
O is a letter. You just say zero.
Anyway, let's just move on with this concise,
Can I just say
detailed...
something about...
Go on.
I just want to say something about Phil. Phil wrote there... sorry, you want to say something?
I just want to get to the end of the housekeeping. We're so close to having a really concise housekeeping. It's my own fault. I involved Phil, but correct me if I'm wrong, we were talking about gas pressure without a container when he made that comment.
Yeah, we were, yeah.
Any evidence that you can have an elevation angle acquisition from a curved baseline?
No, it's impossible. It requires a horizontal baseline.
This is the one that, even if you had R for that, you couldn't do it.
Yeah, just faded off the screen. They've got an all bent, all refracted light coming into their sextant, which won't give them an angle, and a baseline that's all curved, always, everywhere, because it's a sphere. So spheres aren't capable of giving you an elevation angle measurement. You can only get an elevation angle measurement off a flat plane. Earth must be and is flat for celestial navigation to function. Now, the best get around they've got so far, and I kid you not, is to tell us how they can derive a flat plane from a sphere. In other words, oh yeah, we're definitely going to be navigating on a flat plane, but I can infer a flat plane from my sphere by X, in spite of the fact that when they infer it, they've already acquired an angle off a flat plane to infer it. So it's a devastating argument to end the housekeeping summary on. And correct me if I'm wrong, we've done this within 30 minutes of the live show going out. That's a good one. I'll trim that out. Just under 30 minutes.
I would like to make a slight correction. There is no debate about whether we're acquiring an angle from the surface of Earth. It's just delusion after that.
Yeah, you can delusionally state that it comes from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth on an equatorial plane. But ultimately speaking, you're describing something that you've measured on the surface as being at the centre of a rock to get the angle to be correct. And that's the only place it will be. If you then take that angle correct at the centre of a rock, it then doesn't match the angle that they put on the surface of the sphere that's redundant in the angle measurement. So it doesn't even match when they transpose a sphere onto that angle measurement on an equatorial plane, flat surface that you can get an angle to this stuff to actually navigate on the equatorial plane based on the stars that are projected out at an infinite distance if you've got a globe in the diagram that is then redundant and not used for any of the angle measurements. And if you did put the angle measurement that you did take from the centre of their claim to be middle of a rock, actually you standing on the surface, it doesn't work on their surface that they project out at 39, 59 mile radius. Suddenly that angle doesn't match anymore. So they have to project it out to an infinite distance, in spite of them claiming having distances with conversions from Christian Huygens' assumptions of Venus being the same size, Earth having a radius they've made presuppositions about, and Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion being capable of giving you distances to these values once you make those assumptions. Well, all of that crap doesn't entail anything to do with celestial navigation. All you do is measure an angle off a flat plane and then move to the position after you've acquired where you are. It's just that simple. Flat Earth required. Earth is flat. It's proven with celestial navigation. Shout out to Fibre Oats, who says, saw 10th's last presentation with sextant diagrams with all the flat discs in the middle of the sphere. Can't believe that anyone could still be a glober after that. Yeah, I agree. Thanks for the super chat, Fibre Oats. Really appreciate the support. So that definitely does conclude the housekeeping. So in the pre-show, we were talking about how our opponents don't have anything. The best attack on this subject is to justify how they get a flat plane to still have a redundant sphere dangling below it like a hemorrhoid. Well, that justification is their justification for using a flat plane. They will be still using a flat plane. And in Brian's experience, they'll justify an infinite flat plane with a tiny little globe Earth hemorrhoid dangling off the bottom of it when they do celestial navigation. So all they can do is justify how we'll still use a flat plane to do celestial navigation, but I'm going to dangle this off the bottom of it, this little sphere that's not relevant and doesn't work and doesn't give you the GP and doesn't give you an angle and doesn't actually function. It just meets it at a single point called a tangent that we debunked back in 2020 with the Black Swan. You're getting kudos from Fibre Oats, who says, thanks, 10th, with another super chat. Well, thank you, and I'll pass on your thanks as the audience gets to see it scrolling by. Really appreciate the support. Thank you for all the super chats, Fibre Oats. Also, Kiefer Green, who says, say tangent one more time. I can only assume that Kiefer Green is a channel member and is privy to some of the videos that I'm going to release over the weekend. So I didn't use the now tagged Pulp Fiction line in any of the edits, but in the members only full version of that 5-hour live stream, yeah, it rightly does get, should be compared to Pulp Fiction, because I basically say the same thing, not necessarily intentionally, but it presumably will be amusing. If I did trim it out, I won't. It's just too much swearing. Thank you for the super chat, though. Okay, I'm done shouting out super chats in case anybody was wondering when that would ever end. Really appreciate the support, everybody. Thank you very much for all those super chats.
Have you considered their position of nuh-uh?
Oh, somebody's put it up on screen. I couldn't stop that. I trust you guys. Hopefully the algorithm doesn't notice.
Oops.
Say tangent one more time. Yeah, Black Swan.
When that went up, you were proper raging. Where you was properly at. And when that, I had to crack my sides, because that's exactly describes the moment very well, that picture.
Well, my outrage stemmed from being told for 2 straight years, yeah, what you expect us to see a straight line? No, refracted. Well, after 2 years of hearing that, when they say, I've got a straight line, it's my tangent, then suddenly you're like, you're going to claim that again, Black Swan? Hello? Refracted? What is it, no Atmo day? Once you've pointed that out, who's going to deny that they've spent 2 straight years barking and parroting refraction at us? Suddenly we've just got to forget that. Should we just shelf that? Those 2 years of you telling us it's all bent lines always. You just shelf that, right? Because you need a straight one for this. No. Oh, no. Not at all. No. You just get slapped about with it. That's when you get asked to say tangent one more time. Yeah, like you got a gun against your head. Go on, Neil.
What the hell is that?
It is what?
Somebody chewing?
Chewing what? What are you talking about, Neil? You having another flashback? Nurse, he's having another one.
That's a little surreal. Whilst Neil's there, I was late.
Somebody's chewing something. I'm hearing it.
You smell toast, burnt toast. Okay. Well, that's good to know, Neil. I do like weddings also. Has anybody seen my camel?
Next Thursday.
Thursday? Perfect.
Yeah.
Moving on. Glad we got through the housekeeping for that slightly surreal event.
I'm serious. You just don't hear that background noise? Am I losing my freaking mind here?
Yes,
that's what we're suggesting.
That was subtly what we were very subtly trying to imply, Neil. But it was subtle, admittedly. Is it you? Have you got chewing gum in?
You missed my pun.
I didn't hear it at all. Sorry, go ahead.
Adam said Camel Thursday. I said, is that after the Over the Hump Wednesday?
Schrodinger Tuesday.
Oh my God, I got this YouTube on. That's what it is. I'm sorry. I thought somebody had their mic open.
No, it's you.
Freaking, my wife listens to these YouTube channels where all they do is eat food and talk about it, and that's what's on in the background.
Mukbang.
Sorry.
She listens
Yes.
to mukbang.
Exactly what was on.
Oh, I missed such a golden opportunity. I was gonna say, Neil, that's probably your ASMR in the background. But I said, meh, whatever. And that's exactly what it was. Oh, golden opportunity.
Unreal.
That's fair enough. Some people eat that stuff up.
Because I've done that before.
I'll recognise that, Nathan.
Okay, are we
Maybe
done?
that's how the ballers got their cosmic radiation. They had a YouTube channel on. And they thought,
Irony of irony. Now we're talking about this crap for whatever reason. Neil's
Sorry.
lack of vigilance. I get a chat from Murica, Silver Patriot. He says, "On point, Nathan." Gives me a fist bump. Yeah. Terrible timing, but I really appreciate the sentiment and support. Thank you very much indeed. It was a good first half to the show. I'm glad we did it. Where's Brian?
The America Silver Patriot.
America.
There was a patriotic point came up yesterday, and 10th was pointing it out yesterday. And who would win the Civil War?
Oh God! The distraction of the media works.
Revolutionary War. Revolutionary War.
I've got evidence. Is all I thought. That just share it. So, in November last year, war games were fought. Show you here. Pretty conclusive, America, yeah? 200 British troops took out 1,500, and they had to end the simulated battles in California a couple of days early because we won so quickly. So that's just modern. I assume we'll let you have.
There you go.
So, 200 against 1,500.
I gotta be honest, so quickly people's minds move subject matter when the mainstream media takes a U-turn onto something different. But there we go, enough of my moans. I don't tend to watch the mainstream media, although I do know what's being talked about.
Did you see the slide I put up?
I'll just shout out Godzilla, then I will. One moment. Is it in Skype?
No, Master B. Yeah, Master B.
Yeah, okay.
There was some... I'll knock it back down again. There was some... actually sensible I wanted to share, but if you've got slides as well, but if
no, we'll start with you, Adam. I'll just shout out the super chat. I've got your screen presented. I'll just shout out the super chat, then Adam, then 10th. Okay, YouTube this when you get a chance, says Godzilla 37. Related to my last super chat, quote, I just found out that Americans call Flicky, Wiki, Lucky, and Light Switch. End quote. I hope I haven't butchered that, but there we go. Thank you very much for the super chat, Godzilla37. So glad I didn't let that one slide by unnoticed. Adam, go ahead. Thank you in all sincerity, Godzilla, for the super chat.
I'll try and keep it brief. Been doing a little bit of just historical digging. You know, I would say we're going back, and I'm getting back to early 1500s and looking at stuff. And what I found interesting was nobody knows how Mercator drew his maps, first and foremost. People will make the statements about how wonderful they are, because what Mercator's maps do and what people are trying to figure out how to use them at this time is they recognize that any individual bearing from any one point on the map is represented as straight lines. So east to west curves are represented as straight lines on here. But as I'm researching, it appears lots of the cartographers and mathematicians couldn't understand how this was drawn, which I found very interesting, that this thing appears to be gifted, and not my previous historical understanding of it. That was just one point. And you've got the map, and you see down in this bottom left corner here, there's this one. And what I was doing, oh, that's the rubbish picture. You're probably all familiar with this. And this isn't using a straight line grid. This is using an arc grid. And can anybody tell me where the North Pole is on here?
Got Hyperborea.
Yeah, so where's the magnetic North Pole?
At the centre of Mount Meru in this map.
This Mount Meru. So what I've done is I've done a little bit of Latin, not all of it. If you zoom out a bit. I was reading some of these things like here, look, California Reggio, and there's some really odd statements. I've translated them, so if you just bear with me, I'll go through them. The first one, that California one, is stated as a land where the Spanish roam. Here we've got Bargu. Bargu, the plains of Bargu, whose inhabitants are called Mercriti, which is now, defunct. This one was talking about different lands, but then here, and this was the more interesting ones, it reads, and just bear with me, I've lost it. I think that's the first one. So I'm assuming that's Mount Meru, but this reads as Rupis Nigra e Altissima, which reads as the black and deep rocks. And then I was checking with this historian, and he was saying, no, the maps don't even use this or reference this, and neither did the old navigators reference this as the magnetic north. What they referenced was this one here, which...
One here? You have to make your mouse movement bigger.
Okay, can you see here where my cursor is around this black rock now? I'll zoom in on it here. So on the other side of Hyperborea, in between America and, so in this straits, which is a very dubious thing on all maps. So we have here 2 points, and the first one reads Polus magnetis reflectu corpus insulae, which translates as the pole of the magnet reflecting the body of the island. And this appears to be where they did their calculations from. Sorry, that's this one. Sorry, the smaller dot underneath reads as Polus magnetis reflectu corpus insulae, the pole of the magnet reflecting the body of the island. And then this one above it, the bigger one, which looks a bit like the Meru, reads Polus magnetis reflectu insulari capitis viridis. The pole of the magnet reflecting on the islands of the green head.
Green
So I
head.
just found that very interesting that's that. And there was just one more thing to finish with, one more bit of translation, which I found very telling. If you see in the bottom corner here, this circle, the bottom right corner, it reads Septentrino nalium terem de scripting per gerardum mercatum cum privilegio. And that I got to translate as North of the World Scripting by Gerard Mercator with privilege. So presented with privilege, the North World Script. I was very interested to use the word script, which I found. Like I said,
that was excellent. Is there any more, Adam? That was brilliant.
That's it. I'm finished, yeah.
That was epic. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. 10th, did you want to go next?
Well, after that point, I don't think it matters now.
Come on. We've got a different point.
Well, it was on the Revolutionary War, and Adams saying that how many Brits defeated how many Americans in the recent war games?
No. I've got your slides presented.
Oh, I thought we were going over there.
No, just the media poisoning my panel. That's all that is.
Come on, 10th, keep up.
Well, which slide do you have? I put a lot up there just for everyone to glean over. I wasn't going to do a present, but I could.
Okay, I've started on the one that's got a sun top left and then elevation angle with the north and up on it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So here's a flat plane that's necessary to get an angle. Obviously, you have the GP of the sun somewhere over the earth, and then you've got your triangle and your elevation angle. So this is from them. They need a plane that can work on the surface curving away. Next slide should show a cutout of the globe. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so here you say, well, how can you achieve what I just showed previously? Well, you can't do it from the surface. So you cut the globe in half and say, oh, let's use the equatorial plane. It's at 0 degrees all the way. So you got a flat horizontal. Now you can you see a 30-degree latitude right there. You see the vertex right there. You see straight lines. But they now are fooling you, saying it's coming from the globe. You see that curved outer arc. Well, if you go to the previous slide, if you would, that sun has a straight zenith position over the earth. That's a straight line. Can't have a curved line in a triangle. So this is the deception, to use the arc of the protractor and say something's curved when the base is flat. Next slide, it shows a azimuth angle and an altitude angle requiring a flat base. Of course, horizontal angle from the north along the horizon is the azimuth, and altitude angle, vertical angle above the horizon. Still need a flat plane. Can't work with a curved surface, curved baseline. There's no way. The whole of celestial navigation is hurting the ballers. Next slide. Here's a depiction of a Navy ship trying to figure out a plane flying over, and they need a vertical plane, and they're trying to get the range and the true bearing. And so you can see the horizontal plane they have to have in order to figure this out. Well, there's no difference between the plane in the sky or a star in the sky. You still need to use the same methodology. You need a flat baseline. Next slide. So next slide is kind of a math-looking slide. You got the horizontal plane, the cutout, and they bring it up to the top. Wait a minute. I thought we were measuring from the top. No, you're measuring, all the books, tables are pre-calculated to the center of the earth where there's an equatorial plane, and now they've got you thinking they're bringing that to the top of a curved surface. Doesn't make any sense. Next slide. This is interesting. They've got that plane up there on the sphere, And then they've got the below version, the curving down of a sphere, which will disable any celestial navigation methodology in place, because you can't get an angle with a curved baseline. So this is just pure nonsense. Next slide. This is a sextant. These are images from the internet, but I have the exact same one. I bought the sextant. Freiberg. I keep saying burger. I guess I get hungry. Next slide after that shows you the arc in the instrument. And for fine tuning, the micrometer drum. This is just a glorified protractor. Next slide shows the full image of it. It's great craftsmanship, this German-made sextant. The next slide shows an old black and white image of a navigator. This is with the bubble attachment, I believe. He's on the plane here. So he's trying to get horizontal level. Next slide, black and white image. You can see the guns and the Navy navigator and the planes flying over the level ocean, and he's sighting the horizon with something. Next slide shows from the Comet program, Navy site, that you need sea level and an angle, and that star would have a straight position over the Earth. So there's your opposite side. There's your triangle that they're running away from. And you can see the navigator on this ship is high above the ship, but then after they do all the calculations, he's got to do dip, and he's got to bring himself and his eye level to sea level. It's got to be geometric. Next slide from the Comet program, Navy site, shows it actually the way it is. Here's our flat Earth, and here's the arc of basically a protractor, and there's the angle, and there's your triangle, the GP. I mean, it can't be any clearer. Next slide shows what a triangle is. The star would be the altitude or height. That's a 90 degree. A 90 degree requires a base to be straight. It's a perpendicular. Hypotenuse, in this case, if there was a guide, that would be the vertex where the sextant navigator's eyes would be, getting the angle. I mean, this is basic. Next slide. This is 3 circle of equal altitudes depicting 90 degree triangle, triangulation to get a fix. By measuring the angles to 3 known stars, an observer knows his location. Do you see any curved baselines there? Why would they put a 90 degree symbol box there? And why would it be from the center of a circle of equal altitude if the circle wasn't 2-dimensional flat circle where the radius has to be straight from the GP of the star to the GP of the observer? Next slide, it says it here. If we go from the middle, from this, that a navigator knows he is on a specific circle along the plane of the surface of the Earth. Can't get better than that. Of radius r, known as the line of position. He does not know his direction from this point, however. By examining a second star, a second radius can be deduced. The navigator now knows he is at one of the points where both the circular functions meet. What's a circular function? What's a circle, a 2D, right? And they cross each other at 2 points. Possible fixes. In the case that there is only one real route, he knows his position, although this is only possible if the radii are parallel. 3 circle of equal altitudes, the radii must be parallel, radius lines are straight. That's it.
Perfect. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Earth must be flat in order to navigate successfully using celestial navigation. Can't work on a sphere.
I don't like that. I like Earth is flat. Not must be. It is, and that's it. End of story.
Yeah. It doesn't matter which way you phrase it, Neil. The obvious, observable, measurable, navigatable nature of the Earth is becoming clear to anybody who's watching. And anybody who's bracing against it is merely justifying how they can claim there's a sphere dangling off a flat plane when they do this. Still a flat plane for both sides, so effectively it's game over. They want to justify how they can still have a faith in a globe dangling off the bottom of the flat plane at a single point we debunked with the black swan. They're entitled to believe that. But at this point in the discussion, if you've been here for any substantial period of time, it is just a belief in the globe now for an anti-flat earther. I can say that with confidence. You have a faith.
Well,
Yeah,
can I
they
attack?
Go on.
Sorry. I was just going to say, they just look silly doing it.
Well, can I attack that belief in the globe dangling off the bottom right quick?
Black swan. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, Eratosthenes didn't account for dip angle. He took the observer completely out of it, so there's no height of eye correction. Right? There's no horizon, none of that.
No,
All he did was measure an angle.
I see. So you're saying he's not doing any dip correction from a tangent point claim to give you a tangent plane. It's just starting with and utilizing the flat plane.
Right. They can't invoke the geometric horizon in that he didn't use a horizon. He used the stick and a shadow and the flat plane we dwell atop.
Any other comments? It's been a good show today. Good live show. Please share the show. I normally do a shout out halfway through when there's about 100 people watching. Now 130 watching, but if you have shared the show, thank you very much indeed for doing so. As I say, any last comments? We have got a couple more minutes.
Yeah, this Tom Mole or whatever in chat, he's saying that can't work on a flat plane. Let me see if I can find it. I mean, I'd like for him to come on the show. Maybe he'll have the same sufferings virus had.
Maybe. In reality, it can't work on a globe. You can't acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat in your droves today, so really do appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. But if you did want to support the channel, there is a PayPal link in the info box below this video. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!